Yeah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good evening to our lecturer, Madam Sharifah Nadia, for the class of Human Relations. Today, me and my teammates, Nurul Azwa binti Roslan, Syed Abu Bakar Hadi bin Syed Faisal, myself, and Mariana binti Muhammad Yahya are going to do a presentation on how to resolve conflict and deal with difficult people. So for the first part of the presentation, I will pass it to my teammate Azwa.
Okay, so first slide is introduction. Conflict is not a strange thing for people. Human beings experience it in their day-to-day life with their friends, families, and more so their professional life. In the workplace, conflict causes a massive degree of frustration, pain, discomfort, sadness, as well as anger. It is a normal life aspect. In the world of today, organizations hire employees from diverse geographical locations with dissimilar culture and intellectual backgrounds, as well as various viewpoints. In a working environment where people have disparate outlooks toward the same problems, disagreements are bound to happen. So next slide is the cause of conflict. First, information conflict arise when people have different or insufficient information or disagree over what data is relevant. Allowing sufficient time to be heard in a respectful environment facilitated by a neutral person can allow parties to clear up information disparities. Second, values conflict created when people have perceived or actual incompatible belief system, where a person or group try to impose its values on others or claims exclusive right to a set of values. Dispute arise. While values may be non-negotiable, they can be discussed and people can learn to live peacefully and coherently alongside each other. Third, interest conflict caused by competition over perceived or actual incompatible needs. Such conflict may occur over issue of money, resource, or time. Parties often mistakenly believe that in order to satisfy their own needs, those of their opponent must be satisfied. So number 4, relationship conflict occur when there are misperception, strong negative emotion, or poor communication. One person may distrust the other and believe that the other person's actions are motivated by malice or an intent to harm the other. Last is structural conflict caused by oppressive behavior exerted on others, limited resource or opportunity, as well as organization structure often promote conflict behavior. The parties may well benefit from mediation since the forum will help neutralize the power imbalance. So next, I will pass the presentation to Abu.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to manage and resolve conflict. So the first strategy into managing or resolving conflict is basically by avoiding it altogether. Someone who uses a strategy of avoiding mostly tries to ignore or sidestep the conflict, hoping it will resolve itself or dissipate. So, and the next strategy is accommodating. Using the strategy of accommodating to resolve conflict essentially involves taking steps to satisfy the other party's concerns or demands at the expense of your own needs or desires. The next strategy is compromising. So, the strategy of compromising involves finding an acceptable resolution that will partly, but not entirely, satisfy the concerns of all parties involved. And the last strategy is collaborating. Using collaborating involves finding a solution that entirely satisfies the concerns of all involved parties. So that is it on how to manage and resolve conflict. I will now pass the presentation over to my teammate Diana.
Okay, so I will continue the presentation with dealing with difficult people. Next slide. Shift from acting as a critic who pass judgment or a victim who is being defensive to a responsible adult who can work with different type of people is difficult people. While difficult people is a reality of life and everything we feel about them may be true, is it really in our best interest navigate our life by blaming them, holding them responsible for not reaching our goals, and pretending that we did not succeed because of some mean coworker? So, there are some strategies to deal with a difficult people. Number one, understand the person intention. I like to believe that no one is difficult for the sake of being difficult, even when it may seem that the person is just out to get you. There is always some underlying reason that is motivating them to act in this way. Rarely is this motivation apparent. Try to identify the person trigger, which is what is making him or her act in this manner, what is stopping him or her from cooperating with you. Number two, get some perspective from others. So you know in all your colleges, managers, and friends must have experienced similar situation in some way or another. They will be able to see things from a different angle and offer a different take on the situation. Seek them out, share your story, and listen to what they have to say. You might very well find some golden advice in the midst of the conversation. And number three, let the person know where you are coming from. One thing that has worked for me is to let the person know my intention behind what I am doing. Sometimes they are being resistant because they think that you are just being difficult with them. Letting them in on the reason behind your action and the full background of what is happening will enable them to empathize with your situation. This lets them get them on board much easier. So I will pass the presentation to Abu.
So the next strategy to dealing with difficult people is to treat them with respect. No one likes to be treated as if he or she is stupid, incapable, or incompetent. If you are going to treat the person with disrespect, it's not going to be surprising if he or she treats you the same way as well. As the golden rule says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The next strategy is to ignore. If you have already tried everything above and the person is still not being receptive, the best way might be to just ignore them. After all, you have already done all that you can within your means. Get on your daily tasks and interface with the person only where needed. Of course, this isn't feasible in cases where the person plays a critical role in your work, which leads us to our last tip, which is to escalate to a higher authority for resolution. You can tell maybe your superior or your supervisor on to what's happening and let them decide on what's the best way to resolve the current conflict or the current problem. So, in conclusion, whether it's dealing with difficult people or resolving a conflict, this comes into play in our daily lives, and it involves us. It requires us to take the initiative to to resolve it or to stop it, because when all is said and done, we can make a change. It is up to us to make a change, because sometimes people just won't understand, and sometimes people are just people, they have their own feelings, they have their own way of thinking. And sometimes the best way to avoid a conflict or to resolve a conflict or to deal with difficult people is to do it by working on ourselves. If we can improve how we deal with these kinds of problems, then I'm sure that we can overcome all these problems that we face in our daily lives. So that is all for our presentation tonight. Thank you and have a nice night.